We're going to start off with House Bill 58, which is speed monitoring systems in residential districts. The sponsor is Delegate Guyton. Delegate Guyton, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I also just want to shout out to the leadership of the General Assembly. I don't know if Madam Speaker is with us right now. I know we have the Speaker Pro Tem, and I just want to thank you for the pro forma session today. This is a weather event in North County, and I may be eating stale Fruit Loops all weekend, but at least I'll be safe. So thank you for that. And for those of you who don't know, I'm actually not in my office. I am at home right now, thanks to that leadership. I am here, members, to ask for your favorable support of House Bill 58. You have heard this bill in a very similar form last year. This bill simply transfers, I know people laugh when you say it's a simple bill. This is a simple bill. This bill simply transfers the authority to decide when and where speed monitoring devices can be placed in residential areas to Baltimore County from the state. This bill is a local control bill. And I think we just heard from Student Support Network that they're able to do this example. They're able to do their best work because there are people on the ground closest to the problem that can remind us that students need things like light bulbs and sunscreen that we wouldn't have thought about. So I think it's really important that the Baltimore County Administration and Police Department have the statutory authority to be nimble when trying to support the public safety concerns of our residents. Right? Currently, Baltimore County has to bring the placement of speed monitoring devices outside of specific school zones to the state legislature for statutory approval, which means folks in Baltimore City, folks in St. Mary's County, folks in Montgomery County are actually voting on those things and not Baltimore County administration, which can be a concern. So this bill enables simply our local government to make these decisions directly if they choose to do so to protect the safety of our constituents. So other counties are going in this direction, and I believe that's going to continue. In the past 2 years, Montgomery County's made this change, Prince George's County has made this change, Anne Arundel County has made this change to provide more local control in these decisions. So this bill is supported by over 40 community associations. I know last year you all heard from lots of them. I do want to point out that one of our witnesses, who is Miss Owens, the president of the Liberty Manor Community Association, which I believe is in the Windsor Mill area, has lost power today because of the storm. And so she will not be able to join us, but we will hear from a few others, and I will make sure that you have her testimony. I also want to point out that I've worked with the Baltimore County Executive's Office this year, and we have the support from Baltimore County Administration. I have a letter from the chair of the Baltimore County Council in support and several other independent letters from councilmen, and that is a bipartisan effort. So I want to make sure that you do recognize that we have both Democrats and Republican council people who have said that they are publicly supportive of this legislation this year. In addition, I've had multiple conversations with Chief McCullough, Chief of Police of Baltimore County, and we are currently waiting for his letter to come over, but he has also expressed support for this legislation. So hopefully that will change some of your minds this year. We came awful close to passing this last year in delegation, and I hope that we will do so this year. I did work on over the interim on language to make this bill less prescriptive with the county executive's office, and basically it doesn't provide any major changes. It just makes the bill, gives them more local control for any regulations that they may need to propose. All of the provisions that were particularly important to members of this body last year, and if I recall, public comment was one of them, police involvement, and traffic studies was another. Those are still in the bill. Right? This bill is being cross-filed by Senator Ben Brooks, and he will fight the fight on the Senate side, but I hope that on the House side this year, we can pass this and give support to our local administration and public safety officers. So I thank you for your consideration of House Bill 58. And I am certainly open for questions, but I also believe I have some witnesses.
You will take questions at the end of the witnesses.
Okay.
Delegate Guyton, I know that you have an amendment that you intend to offer. So that we can be clear what your overall intent is? Do you want to discuss the amendment real quick in case somebody's looking at the bill? We have posted the amendment on the same Google site that all the other information is there. We got a hold of it last night. You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I apologize it took us so long to make sure that you had that last evening. Yeah, the amendment was one put in by the county administration, and it just literally says Baltimore County is responsible for promulgating regulations to allow public comment, because that was something we did, and general implementation of this statute. It just makes the bill in general less prescriptive so that they can do what they needed to do. And again, like I say, the issues with, public comments mentioned there, but the public safety and traffic reports, all of that it's still in the bill. So,
thanks. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a second part that seems to remove the council from the decision-making process. I can check with council on that, or you can confirm that, either one.
Yeah, we felt like that this public comment period, general implementation of this statute depending on how the county and the county council and the county administration wants to proceed, that all of those decisions will be left up to them. The council involvement, how many public comment sessions, all the rest will be left up to them. And so that's for the county to figure out.
And it's your intent to bring that amendment forward when we do voting on this bill. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have 6 guests. I will tell you that we let the sponsor go as long as they feel like they need to. Guests, you're limited to 2 minutes of testimony. And so we had 6, now we have 5 apparently, but we'll start off with Eric Rockel. Please, you have the floor, sir.
Good morning, delegation. Thank you. I'd like to also extend my thanks to Delegate Guyton for sponsoring this bill. It's important because throughout the county, I live in the central part of the county, but throughout the county, there are problems with speeding. Now, the local government, the Office of Traffic Engineering does a good job of addressing that in neighborhood streets, but on the next higher level of streets, the collector streets, there's still a great problem. We've had in the central part of the county many experiences with cars leaving the road, the potential for private property damage, that sort of thing. I'd like to close my remarks by saying that the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety looked at Montgomery County, which has had this speed camera program in effect for, I think, over 7 years now. And the Insurance Institute concluded that there was a 10% reduction in mean speeds and a 62% reduction in the likelihood that a vehicle was traveling more than 10 miles per hour above the speed limit at camera sites. Those statistics in and of themselves made me a believer that this would be an effective measure to try to control speeding. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak my mind.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rockel. I have designations for other guests, but I don't have theirs. Is there a group you're representing, just so we know?
Well, I'm speaking individually. I am the vice president of the Greater Timonium Community Council, but I'm here today in my individual capacity.
Thank you for your forthrightness on that. Next up, we have Jason Taylor, who is from the Marymount Neighborhood Improvement Association. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you, Delegate Guyton, for listening to us and sponsoring this bill. It's so important for public safety. I'm Jason Taylor, the president of the Marymount Neighborhood Improvement Association. Marymount composes of 197 homes in the Liberty Road corridor. It's adjacent to Stevenswood community. Our residents expressed to me great interest in speed camera legislation over the past couple of years in Baltimore County. And I was able to testify last year on behalf of this. I'm back again this year to articulate the residents' specific safety concerns and about the dangerous speeding on the connecting side streets of Liberty Road. So personally, I commute to work locations in both Prince George's and Montgomery counties. And occasionally, the GPS will navigate me off the state highways and onto smaller roads to avoid traffic. These neighborhoods in Montgomery County and Prince George's counties are protected by speed cameras. And I know because I've received speeding tickets from those cameras, and those tickets have made me slow down when navigating through those neighborhoods. My work commuting time frame is simultaneous with the time frame that kids are going to school. So in these neighborhoods, there are students waiting for buses and walking to school. And I think that these speed cameras definitely help protect them. And we want these same safety resources as an option here in Baltimore County neighborhoods. Specifically in my neighborhood, residents are tired of worrying about speeding and endangering the lives of our children and seniors and pets. And residents are tired of drivers going over 60 miles per hour in our community off Liberty Road to cut through the rolling road. This has to stop, and we must be allowed to defend our community streets against recklessness. Our local police have 1 or 2 traffic cops on duty due to shortages, so it's unrealistic to expect them to patrol such a wide area effectively. Last year, I heard there was a lot of confusion in Annapolis that the legislation somehow commits the county to install cameras. It doesn't. It simply enables the legislation, allow the county to consider doing so. Please don't oppose this right for our communities in Baltimore County to have the same access that Anne Arundel County, Montgomery County, and Prince George's County has to save lives, reduce accidents, and help our car insurance rates go down.
Sure.
Please let this
Mr. Taylor, if you could summarize, please. You're at 2 minutes.
Please let this legislation get passed. Our neighborhoods could be safer in Randallstown and Windsor communities and all across Baltimore County as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Shirley Supik, President of the Liberty Road Community Council. You have the floor.
Hello,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. As the president of the Liberty Road Community Council, we're an umbrella organization over a whole bunch of communities in this area. And I have continually gotten requests from them to do something about slowing traffic down. I have sat in communities for a couple of hours at a time and watched cars actually hit speed bumps that have already been installed for traffic calming, make these cars go airborne because they're traveling so fast that even the speed bumps don't have any effect on them. So the community is desperate. And when this came up, I try to do my homework. I went to Baltimore County's what I call the guru for speed reduction in Baltimore County, and that's Keith Link. And I asked him what it costs Baltimore County every year for speed cameras, for speed bumps. And he said each speed bump that's put in is $4,000. Last year, Baltimore County spent over $500,000 on calming effects. And so if cameras were installed, Baltimore County wouldn't have to pay for them. A company that installs these would install them, maintain them, and the money that is procured from those tickets would pay for the service that the camera company is providing. It also would bring in revenue, and there are communities out there who would like to have speed bumps, who don't necessarily need a camera, but they can't afford to have a speed bump in their area because they don't get enough traffic, but the traffic that does come through is speeding. So this extra money would actually allow those communities to have the funds to install speed bumps in that area if they needed it. We believe that Baltimore County should have the right to say that these communities need these services. And the other thing is, in Baltimore County, if the people have enough to say about an issue, we have a county executive who is listening. And so he ought to be able to do the things that we need done here. This is
Thank you, Ms. Supik. You're 2 minutes. Could you give us a summary sentence, please?
I am just begging this commission, thanking them first off for listening and begging them to pass this legislation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me stop that. Next up, we have Susan Williams, who is co-president of the Pine Ridge Association. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. My My name is Susan Williams, and I am the co-president of Pine Ridge, which is in the Pikesville area. We have a particular area where we have a lot of speeding, and any number of our neighborhoods have had other people hit them while we're making a left turn into our community, meaning we're stated in that left turn lane and they run over the standing car. This is enabling legislation, and all it really says is Baltimore County may promulgate rules and have speed cameras. So one asks, why are speed cameras a good idea? One, it is clearly a link to public safety. I have provided in my letter an attachment that is from traffic management groups and traffic engineering groups. There is a magic number between 35 and 37.5 miles per hour. That is kind of the difference between a likelihood that you will either be killed as a pedestrian or severely injured as a pedestrian if the vehicle is moving faster than that. So keeping speeds down is clearly a public safety issue, and the primary goal is to reduce accidents. Two, driver's responsibilities. Everybody who gets a driver's license is a privilege, not a right. And essentially, most of us had to take the class or take the test and get our driver's license. What you're doing is agreeing to follow the rules of the road, and the government says, okay, here's a license that says you do that. And the rules really are: don't drive too fast, follow signage, respect emergency vehicles, and don't hit stuff is the main goal of all those rules and regulations. The driver's benefit to a speed camera basically is if you are naughty, you will receive a little letter in the mail that says, here's the fine you have to pay. If a police officer stops you, you're going to not only get probably the fine, you're going to get points as well. So if you're being naughty one day and you're usually good, you'll get the slap on the hands versus potential points.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Your 2 minutes, if you could give us a summary sentence,
Yeah.
please.
My last point is really that it's beneficial because we all know we're short on police, and we'd prefer them doing different duties than traffic. And we're requesting that you vote in favor of this enabling legislation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Jeffrey Myers, Pot Spring Community Association. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Jeff Myers. I'm immediate past president of the Pot Spring Community Association, and I'm a current board member. The association supported this bill last year, and I anticipate that they will vote to support it at our next board meeting next Tuesday because we only have one new board member this year. I urge you to support this House bill. Yesterday, I submitted a hard copy of our written support, and I'm not going to read that aloud, but I urge you to take a look at that because it talks about my experience when I was president of the association with significant speeding problems we had on Pot Spring Road, and what I learned from talking to the county traffic engineers and to the police at the Cockeysville Police Precinct. What I want to focus on today is actually a little bit what Eric Rockel talked about, this study that the Insurance Institute did down in Montgomery County, which has some very compelling data in it. I'm not going to repeat what Mr. Rockel talked about, but I'm going to talk about a part that they found that I think will be interesting to you as politicians. The survey that the Insurance Institute did went out and surveyed all the citizens in Montgomery County who are drivers. And they found that 95% of the drivers in Montgomery County knew about this traffic traffic camera program. 62% of them favored it, even though they had received tickets from the cameras or knew someone who had received tickets. So while this is a program that irritates people, and I'm one of those people who has been irritated when I got one of these tickets, I have learned to drive a lot slower on Lyons Mill Road because of these cameras. People support it because they realize this is what we need to get people to obey the speed limit laws. I don't know why, since COVID, people have stopped obeying the speed limit, but any of us who drive know that this has happened. We don't have the funds to hire enough police officers to enforce those rules. So we need these speed cameras. I thank you for your time and consideration. And in summary, I asked that we get this bill passed this year because I don't want to come back next year and testify on this bill when it's named after some little kid who's been killed by a speeding driver. Thank you.
And thank you, sir. Okay, I'm going to just check if Mildred Owens is here. I'll wait a second to see. I have a feeling she's not. All right, that her not being present, unfortunately. I'm going to, as kind of finishing up testimony, just turn to the folks who represent county government for their posture on this bill, if they would like to offer it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the delegation. I'm here on behalf of the county executive. I'm Jen Aosa from the Office of Government Affairs. We have been working with Delegate Guyton and her staff on language. I think, like many of your offices, we hear on a regular basis complaints and concerns from residents about speedings, especially since COVID. And we do believe that the county can develop a thoughtful process, both with the police department and our traffic engineers in the Department of Public Works and Transportation, to work with communities that have these concerns on, what are the right steps we can take to try to prevent this kind of speeding. And if cameras are a tool in that toolbox, we would be appreciative of that. So the county executive is supporting this and looks forward to working with Delegate Guyton and Senator Brooks. Thank you.
I'm going to make the assumptions that's with the amendments presented. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yes, we just saw, I believe, a copy of the amendment this morning, and we are perfectly fine with those.
Good to know. Thank you very much. All right, I want to remind everybody this is a hearing, and so whereas we'll be able to express opinions at voting time, this is really a question and answer period. So if you're recognized, you can express some of your feelings about it, but really you should be looking for clarification. I'm going to take people in order. Delegate Cardin, you're up first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. First of all, thank you to all the folks who came in to testify, and my community association has been hankering me for months and months, and very much in support of this legislation as well, just FYI. Last year, Delegate Guyton, you and I spoke about this, but this might be a question really for Ms. Aosa from the County Executive's Office as well. There already is the enabling ability to put speed cameras within a half a mile of schools. Is that correct? Okay. Ms. Aosa, you're muted. Okay. And that includes, so within a half mile of schools includes more than half, if not about, I think about 2/3 of the county. Now, I know that Delegate Guyton lives in North County where the schools are much further apart, but for the most part, it covers most of the county already. Is that, and we do not, okay, that's question number one.
I don't know that. I would have to check.
If you can check that out and let us know so we can just be informed. Then the next question is, there's not right now, do you know if there's enough money and enough resources, enough speed cameras to even manage all of the school zones that we presently have?
So the answer to that, I do know, is no. Right now, we have a very limited number of cameras deployed within school zones. And I think that may be part of the challenge. Our police routinely move those cameras among school zones based on community complaints, accidents, traffic studies, etc. So we are not currently covered by any stretch of the imagination, even if the current authorizing language might suggest otherwise.
So if we approve this, would we would we basically, maybe this is for you, Delegate Guyton, I don't know, but would we basically be using those limited resources in a larger breadth of areas, except and not just in school areas anymore? Is that, or is this a different, legislation last year?
Yeah, thank you, Delegate Cardin. I think that would be up to the county to decide where they are going to be most effective and where they are most needed. I mean, that's really what this bill is all about. So no one knows the answer to that question. I also think it's important to say that even if we don't have the funds now for the future, and I know a lot of my colleagues are worried about expansion, that might give them a breath of relief there. We do want to be prepared for the future where we might have those resources and or we might need them for public safety. So we don't want them to come back for this later either. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
One last question then. Thank you very much, Delegate. So the question is, if we decided to pass this, and we would give the authority to the county, we would basically be I'm just to be clear, because this is for the county is saying that they're in favor of this. We're going to have all of the community associations that are coming to me and us and all of us legislators and asking us to pass this, coming to you and asking you to move cameras from school zones into communities that are not within school zones. And so it's going to be up to the county to be the bad guy and figure out how we're going to denominate those resources. That's basically what's going to happen. I just want to make it clear that that's
Thank you, Delegate Cardin. I don't know that we know what's going to happen. All we know is that it will be up to the county to make those decisions because they are closer to the people, to the problems. And I can tell you Chief McCullough is very excited about having more direct authority on these issues.
And
thank you for your question. I recognize you don't, you're not a
has the school system chimed in, or should we get them to? I mean, this is for the chair, I guess. But okay, thank you. Look, my feeling is, if the county executive and the county wants it, then maybe we should consider it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, Delegate Naraki got kicked off and put back on. You're next. Go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, let me lower my hand here. This question, first question I have could either be for Delegate Guyton or for Ms. Aosa, whoever wants to take the first stab at it. Could you tell me how many speed cameras we currently have in operation in Baltimore County?
I don't have that number in front of me. I do believe it is less than 50.
You know, if Tony Bazemore is here, maybe he can quickly look up the answer to that.
I think I have the number. Chief McCullough gave me a rough
rhetorical question.
I believe it's 78, but I wanted to verify that. Chief McCullough did not have a chance to get it back to me yet, but I wanted to verify that. So I believe it is actually 78 in operation currently. Could Ms. Aosa, could you tell us about the recent rule change that the county council just passed within the past several months with respect to speed cameras, bringing it in line with COMAR, and what the policy was in Baltimore County before that rule change and what the policy is now in Baltimore County?
No, actually, I can't. I know that the administration has been working with the county council to look for funding to expand within the current authorizing language the number of cameras that we can deploy, because it has been a matter of resources, and there has in the past been council concern about how many cameras we deploy. So we've been working directly with the council to try to come to an agreement on a modest expansion within existing speed zones.
Delegate Guyton, are you able to address that recent rule change? I'm not sure if you're aware of that one.
Not at all. I'm not.
Okay. Well, then I'll
not from any of our council friends or county's office, so I'm not sure how significant that is.
It's very significant. So Councilman Koch recently was able to get a rule change passed in Baltimore County. Up until very recently, we were only able to put speed cameras within 200 feet of a school zone. He passed legislation that brought that in line with the COMAR standards to allow it to now be within a half a mile of a school zone.
Certainly. Thank you very much. And that, I think that has been the assumption we've been going on in this conversation. And that is, that's basically the distance that Delegate Cardin was speaking on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. But that was not the rule until very recently, within the past 2 months in Baltimore County. So it does have an impact. So there are 176 BCPS schools in Baltimore County. There are 141 private schools in Baltimore County. I'm waiting to get this back from my school board member, but according to my school board member, 75% of the land area in Baltimore County actually falls within.
Now, Rocky, I have to ask you if you have a question. You're really
I do. I've got one more question.
Okay, thank you.
I promise I'm getting to a question here, sir. My final question is, so in Montgomery County, there are currently 152 speed cameras deployed in Montgomery County. In Baltimore County, we could deploy up to 318 with the current rules in place. Is that not enough? Is 318 not enough, Delegate Guyton? And wouldn't it be prudent possibly to maybe conduct a study to see with this new rule change what that could look like in the county, as opposed to just kind of changing policy, but let this policy kind of play out, this new policy in Baltimore County, to see what that could look like?
I don't know if 300 speed cameras is enough or way too much, honestly. I think the real issue here is who should be making those decisions. Is it the local administration or is it the state? Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Rocky. Delegate Schlega.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for this bill. Of course, I think we have a wide agreement that speeding is a problem. We're all hearing it. And I've been asking to get the speed reduced on Bel Air Road near me because it is a problem even there. And what they've done near me is put speed humps in, which doesn't cost motorists a ticket. But so regarding the ticket, my question is, I believe the speed camera ticket right now is $40. Who can increase that?
I have no idea. I'm going to kick that one to the county.
I was not expecting that. I don't know who can increase that, but I'm making a list of your questions so that we can try to find answers for them.
Okay.
I do know that speed cameras don't ticket individuals, but rather the owners of cars, because we don't take pictures of the drivers. So
Sure, but
that's why it's held to a lower level. I think it's.
Yeah, well, somebody's paying it. So if
right.
they, if this can be a hardship for people, $40 is a lot of money. And, then if you don't pay it, it gets fines, and then your registration gets held up, and, it can create a lot of problems. So the ability, if you're going to kick it over to the county, which generally I'm for local control, but alcohol laws and other things are at the state level for a reason. So I'd like to know who can increase it. Would there be a cap on it? And how do they get removed? So if your bill passes and, they pop up somewhere and people don't want them there, how can citizen groups get them removed?
Well, that I can answer, because all of those regs are going to be promulgated by the county. So they do include the responsibility for public comment and public interaction. So yeah, thank you.
So it would be the county executive who would have the authority to place them and remove them ultimately?
The county hasn't developed the regs there. Let me just back up a little bit, because I don't want this to sound like we're cutting out the county council, because that's not what's happening here. The provisions that we've put in this particular legislation already over the past year and a half since I've been working on it are much more prescriptive than any other county who's made this change, right? They just add their name to a list of names. We're already prescribing a lot of things that were concerns of you all, the membership of this delegation, and that I really tried to be responsive to. And because of that, we didn't want to put every single little thing into this bill. So the county has agreed to take on all of those little bits and pieces and determine how they're going to be evaluated. And I feel, and that doesn't cut out anyone, and that doesn't mean they're not involved, but county council vote, for my understanding, and I can ask Amanda as well, county council vote for every placement is not currently the way they do business. So this just puts it in line with the way that these other camera situations are handled. Yeah, the county will make that decision.
Okay.
And I'm comfortable with that. I think they should have that local control.
So I know you submitted a support letter from Councilman Patoka, sorry. I understand there are a number of councilmen that are opposed to this. Have you gotten any feedback from them?
No, actually, we have the majority we know are in favor. And we haven't reached out to every. Well, I see.
I don't think
Delegate.
that's.
I see Delegate Graham shaking his head, but we have 4 out of 7. So I'm not sure what to say about that.
Okay. And finally,
thank you.
Asked and answered.
Yeah,
We can certainly investigate
including-
support. Excuse me. We can certainly investigate support among council members and verify that
Sure.
in the week because we're not
That's
voting on the
fine.
bill.
We're still waiting for one letter, so maybe that won't come. But including Wade Koch, who's a Republican. Thank you.
okay. And finally, for the record, Mr. Chair, thank you for allowing us to put some things on the record. If there are 318 schools in Baltimore County, you could put one at each side because, you know, the schools near me just have a camera for traffic going one direction, not both. So you could potentially end up with, you know, 636 additional speed cameras in Baltimore County. Thank you.
Very, very good,
I
Matt
feel
Delegate
that's-
Saliga, and I certainly appreciate that.
I feel like that's a very unlikely scenario. Thank you.
Thank you to the sponsor for pointing that out. Delegate Long.
Thank you. My new phone's not working properly the way I thought it would. But my question is, and I got disconnected. I heard someone say that there was an outside vendor that would actually pay for the installation of these cameras and take care of everything, and then they would whatever net proceeds was left, they would pay to the county. And I just find that very concerning that we're going to even think about letting the outside vendor take care of, speeding tickets. I just had several incidences where I received Easy Pass violations that weren't mine. And it took me forever to get through to these people and get it straightened out. But that's another story. But anyway, the outside vendor taking care of this is just very disturbing on my part. Am I correct in what I heard?
Real quick, though,
I'm not
asking
sure
the
what
county, does an outside vendor take care of speed cameras now as well?
I believe so.
But
It is,
that's current procedure, and that's not really on the bill then. We're talking about adding them, but that's already a procedure that's in place, and the bill doesn't address that. I'll let the sponsor speak to that if she'd
Oh,
like.
thank you, Mr. Chair. That's exactly what I was going to say. The bill does not impact that in any way.
Yeah, I'm not arguing in favor of the bill, but I think we should stay on the bill if we can.
Well, no, I heard testimony that they said that there would be an outside vendor supply the cameras at no cost to the county. Am I correct?
That is already current practice, is what we're saying.
Right. So what you're saying is that right now that there's an outside vendor supplying the cameras?
Delegate Long, we've established that's true. Is there a question?
Question. Like I said, I didn't know.
Okay.
I know you keep saying that the county's got limited resources. Why is it? That's what I was trying to clarify.
So
Thank
Delegate
you.
Long, one more time, that's a different subject, and you're welcome to address that in a bill of your own. But this bill does not address financing that. Those procedures are already in place. This bill talks about putting more cameras under similar circumstances. Delegate Metzger. There it is.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Michelle, for the delegate for the testimony and the. What I'm concerned and what I'm hearing is that we're like punting this to the county, and that brings thought to my mind. But the other part is, and the question here is, have you thought about doing this as a study to really see where the residents of all parts of the county, not just North Part and Timonium and that sort of thing. I have to tell you that speeding is a real problem. I've lost 2 family members in speeding incidents, so I know this is very tragic. I'm okay with putting speed cameras on the highways, but I'm not so sure I want them in the neighborhoods. So that's my thought. And if you would address that, I don't feel like I live by the senior center, and I'm not sure I want to have a camera outside my senior center. Thank you.
Thank you,
Delegate-
Delegate Meltzer. I just want to make it very, very clear, right? And I appreciate the chair's remarks. I will respectfully would like to correct one thing that was just said. This bill does not say that we are going to increase the number of speed cameras. It does not. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I see Jen Iosa has her hand up, and usually that's for clarification. Would you like to offer some clarification, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I think the thing that I would like to clarify for folks on this call is that currently speed cameras cannot and are not placed anywhere without a traffic study that is conducted by our transportation engineers and discussion and evaluation by the police department. So the county feels like when we authorize the movement or the installation of a new camera, currently it is done only in areas where there has been a demonstration of speeding, where we actually have data of car speeds, the number of cars over a given period of time, and the police department can document either specific complaints, accidents, near accidents, or other extenuating circumstances that would make the installation of a camera a good use of limited resources. So I think it's safe to say that the county is looking at this to give us another tool. If there is a location within a residential community that is experiencing high levels of speeding, maybe some accidents or other traffic concerns, and community members and community leaders come forward and seek that kind of study, this would enable us to look into that and consider whether or not deployment of a camera might be appropriate.
Thank you. Delegate Mangione.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for this bill. And I guess this could go to either the Delegate Guyton or Jen, who just spoke. I guess to your point you just made about the police discuss this and whether or not to go forward, is there any community input rather than just the individual or I guess community association, for example, that I guess currently if there's going to be an additional speed camera added? Or is it just the discussion amongst police and a study?
Thank you so much, Delegate Mangione. Yes, public comment is written into the bill.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, it is.
Because, yeah, I was just going to say that like hearing
Yes.
that because there's been and you've experienced a number of times, like Sparks Belfast Road, for example. Where,
Delegate Mangione, we're pushing up against time here. Do you have another question?
I do, but I mean, I was just simply making a comment about.
I know, but this is a hearing, and the hearings are for questions. We can have testimony at the voting when they come.
Okay, well, the comments kind of all tie together, but I guess my other question would be, where do the funds go if, because there could clearly be collected millions of dollars if this goes forward and there's a bunch more cameras. Where do these funds go? Where do they plan to go? Where do they go now, I guess?
So the current state law restricts the use of camera fund or speed camera revenues to basically operations of the program and public safety. So this is not something that the county can use to do other projects or build buildings or pay employees. It is for public safety needs.
Yeah, so these will.
And again, I'll stress that the bill is not about that because that's already law. And if somebody is interested in changing that, I will also comment that earlier we discussed the amount of the fine. Council informs me that that's $40 set by the General Assembly. So these are things that are in our purview, but are not part of what this bill is seeking to expand under current law that we already use for cameras at schools.
Okay. Well, it's just for my own knowledge. That's
Right. But this is a good offline conversation. Here we're talking about the bill itself and whether we want to have more cameras.
I understand that, but with more cameras equals.
I'm sorry, this is, the
potentially more
bill
revenue.
does not necessarily expand camera, that just allows.
I'm sorry, I was really just trying to say it's about whether, about placing them at different places.
So, but under this bill, Delegate, can you remove cameras?
Certainly, that's up to the county. This is all about county. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. And that would again be back to the public input, whether or not, so I could say that I don't want this camera in my neighborhood and we could remove it under this bill.
They move and remove cameras all the time already under current practice.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that.
That's a good question. Thank you, Delegate Mangini. I appreciate that one because that's highly relevant in this situation.
Thank you.
Delegate Grammer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One direct question. So we know to actually address speed problems, you have to address the structure of the road. We know that. We hear the same story. The two gentlemen, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Myers, who I think are sincere about their speed concerns, told us about how they themselves speeded. And what tends to happen is if you have a person traveling through a transit area, they need to be informed via a matter of the structure of the road, speed bumps, narrowing the road, islands, traffic circles, traffic lights. That's actually how you reduce the speed limits. So, what tends to happen in my district is these cameras get put in the poor areas.
Delegate Grammer, are you coming to a question?
Yeah, the Middle River area, and we never actually get the infrastructure we need. So my question is, have you attempted to, use these mechanisms to address the speeding concerns as opposed to leaning on speed cameras?
I think the county's done an amazing job, and I've seen it in my district firsthand on using those other types of speed mediating devices and structures. Absolutely, as they have testified, and as many people have testified, this is one other tool in that toolbox that we actually do know is incredibly effective. And there's a lot of data on that for those situations where those others don't work. So, but thank you for the question. I think that's a really, really good question. Yes, they do a lot of that other infrastructure work. And I think generally that's the first line of defense.
Thank you, Delegate Grammer. Good question. Last question, Delegate Stein, Speaker Pro Tem Stein, if you don't mind. Congratulations, by the way, on behalf of the entire delegation. I hope we can say that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegates, thank you very much for bringing this bill. Just a couple quick questions. Your bill, gives authorization to Baltimore County with the same limitations as are under state law. That is, that a ticket can only be issued or fine can only be issued if someone's going 12 miles an hour more than the speed limit. And it's only for roads that have posted speed limits between 20 and 35 miles per hour, no other roads. Is that right? I mean,
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
Okay. And the second question is, you're just seeking the same authority for Baltimore County that the governments of Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County already have. Is that right?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. All right. The Vice Chair's got his hand up, so we're going to give him the floor real quick.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delegate Guyton, under your bill, in order for the process to even start, who would have to initiate that process?
Citizens would.
And the citizens lives in the communities that.
Correct. The people who are most affected by whatever the public safety issue is, in this case, possibly speeding. Yes.
Okay. Now, currently, if a resident wanted to speak for or against a camera being introduced into their community, where would they have to go to voice their concern?
Thank you so much for that question. Currently, if we were going to do this ourselves rather than give authority to the county, that citizen would have to travel to Annapolis.
Mm-hmm. And what committee would they have to go to do that?
They would go to the Cnty committee with many of us on this call. Yeah.
And how many people from Baltimore County sits on Cnty? Do you know that question?
4, 5. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Okay.
4, I think.
So that would mean that there would be representatives who know nothing about the community that is before them making a decision on if a camera would be placed in that community or not. Is that so?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. In fact, that's the reason that I brought the bill, because it does not only go to Cnty committee, it goes to my subcommittee, on which I am, I believe, the only person from Baltimore County. So we have folks from Montgomery County, folks from Baltimore City, folks from a lot of other districts and parts of the state making those decisions for our people in Baltimore County. And that does not make sense to me. And that's why I brought this bill, and I brought it not on behalf of myself. I brought it on behalf of the 42 community associations that have reached out, not in my district, although many of them are, in all of your districts. And there is one in every one of your districts that have asked for this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, can I get just maybe 2 more questions?
Yeah, I think,
Okay,
yes.
sorry about that. So
the handwriting's on the wall here. Okay.
The purpose of speed cameras is to do what? Delegate Guyton.
My understanding, although I'm not an expert, is to slow people down and increase public safety and decrease deaths, injuries, and accidents.
So to bundle that all up, you would just say deter speeding, right?
Correct.
Okay, so if someone speeds, then there is a consequence. Is that correct? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, there is, and I believe that.
Oh.
Okay, yes, there is, and I believe that's appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, we want some. I want to say that my intent was to treat this as a normal meeting without a pro forma session instead of a regular session being down us, and we're at 10 minutes to 11. We have 2 other bills, and I don't believe we're going to get to both of them, but I want to make sure we exhaust this. So, Delegate Shalega, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate a second bite at the apple, but at what Delegate Jackson and Delegate Guyton just said, I was confused. So you were saying on the record that currently Baltimore County residents have to go to Annapolis to approve a speed camera in their community. I thought Baltimore County determined where within the approved, within a school district, which we determined could be 636 currently approved camera locations. So they don't come to Annapolis for that. They go to Baltimore County makes that decision. Is that correct?
They would have to come to Annapolis to testify for any possible speed monitoring device outside of an already established school zone, which is more than half the county.
Okay, so you weren't saying that currently the enabling ability of Baltimore County to place 636 speed cameras in Baltimore County, they don't have to come to Annapolis for that. If you want to place speed cameras outside of these school locations within a half a mile of a school, then they'd have to come to Annapolis. That's clarifying, just because it sounded like that.
I'd love to answer your question, Delegate. Yes, absolutely, that's the case. If Baltimore County wants to increase public safety after a safety report and study at the suggestion of the police department, outside of a very specified school zone area, currently they have to come to Annapolis. Under this legislation, they'll be able to just go down to Towson. So yeah, I think it'll be much more convenient for people in those situations.
Yes, with outside of the current. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Naraki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for one more bite at the apple. I'll point a clarification. I think the Vice Chair made an excellent point. I do have a question, though, to Delegate Guyton. Delegate Guyton, last year, because I've only got 1 year in the legislature, could you tell me how many bills, speed camera bills that the counties brought that our committee voted down, where we were looking to expand it outside of a school zone when a county is asking for it?
You know what? Honestly, I cannot. I can remember at least one where there was a whole lot of controversy that was a local bill, and I believe that was St. Mary's County, but I don't want to actually speak incorrectly on that, so I don't have the answer to that question right now.
I think that was Charles County. I think Delegate Davis maybe had some questions of that, but my recollection, I'll verify, it was 0. We didn't vote any down out of our committee when the counties asked for them.
Again, I'm not sure. I know there was some controversy over some, but I also don't believe we had many bills, maybe only 2 or 3 last year. I'm sure that Mr. Speaker Pro Tem maybe has a better grasp of the numbers. You know, I will say, though, that those had to wait until legislative session to be approved, which in some cases might have cost lives.
Okay, seeing no further questions, that concludes the hearing on House Bill 58.